Have you ever been home alone late at night, sitting in the dark, and suddenly get the feeling that you're not alone? Or woke up in the middle of the night because you're pretty sure that there is something in your room, just waiting at the foot of your bed or in the dark corner? I've got a few paranormal encounter stories that will make you question what you believe about the supernatural. These are personal accounts from people who've experienced something unexplainable, something terrifying. Hello and welcome to Haunted. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, these stories will give you chills. So, turn down the lights, sit back, and listen closely. You might just start seeing things in the dark. Okay, so this happened 2 nights ago. I awoke suddenly and saw it was 3 a.m. The house was super quiet, and I was by myself since my hubs was at work. I rubbed my eyes, convincing myself it was just another restless night. But as I settled back into bed, a strange feeling washed over me. And it wasn't because I binge-watched ghost encounters. I looked around the dimly lit room. Then I heard a soft whisper, barely audible, but distinct enough to send chills down my spine. I sat up, straining to listen. It seemed to be coming from the hallway, and I began sweating profusely, my PJs were soaked. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but curiosity tugged at me since I was alone. I put my legs over the side of the bed and stood up, but still under the comforter. As I crept down the hallway, the whisper grew clearer, and I noticed the light down the hall toward the living room. My heart raced, and I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack. I had to breathe because my mouth was turning into cotton mouth. In the darkness of the corner, by the lamp, stood a dark, shadowy figure. Sweat began dripping off my arm, down my back, and even my hair was wet. I could barely breathe, frozen in place. The whispers were barely noticeable, but it seemed to say, "Help me." I was so scared, I was frozen and drenched in sweat. It suddenly moved towards my nanny's old mirror hanging on the wall. My heart pounded in my chest and I stumbled back, falling backwards into the hallway onto the floor. My comforter stuck and intertwined between my legs, my arms unable to move and my knees numb. I crawled back into my room so fast I have bruises all over my knees and shins. I don't think I ever moved that fast. I jumped back into my bed under the covers and, unable to get the courage to change out of my wet clothing, I stayed under the covers until daylight and called out of work because of the lost sleep. I don't know what to do. This is the first paranormal encounter at my house, and I had to share this one. We just moved into this house 1 month ago. Any suggestions? I'm literally terrified to the core. I'm going to see about putting up some cameras. My house has actually had quite a bit of activity over the years, but we just live with it like most people do. See, our house was built in 1947, and the original owners had the house up until the early 90s when my grandpa bought it. Apparently, the old man who owned it had a heart attack when he was running his bathwater. His wife eventually saw water running under the door, and that's when she found him. I don't remember if he was on the toilet or on the floor or in the tub. With his death, we have at least one spirit in the house. Some of the things we experienced have ranged from barely noticeable to terrifying. On occasions, we get the feeling that we're not alone, when we definitely are. We have seen shadows, wisps of smoke, and the smell of cigar or pipe tobacco, which is interesting since the owner used to smoke pipes and stuff. Even our names have been whispered ever so faintly, almost to the point you thought you imagined it. At night, I would hear stuff moving around in the kitchen like silverware or empty soda cans. The locks to our doors randomly unlocked themselves, and one time, every exterior lock didn't work anymore, and our keys wouldn't open the door. We have had stuff moved as well right in front of our eyes. We are hunters, so we have the occasional empty shotgun shell on a shelf. On more than one occasion, a shotgun shell or other small item jumped from the back of the shelf over the other taller items on the shelf and hit the floor. My mom has an I Love Lucy Barbie doll on display in this small glass cabinet, which is on another cabinet facing our front door. We came home from a trip to the Jelly Belly factory, and this doll was turned a whole 90 degrees in the cabinet. Nobody touches that doll anyway, and we're all kinda shocked. As for the terrifying ones, well, my dad woke up one night paralyzed and pinned to the bed. What he described to me was that it was a big, dark cloud hovering over my mom. He tried to scream or yell, but couldn't. Eventually, it let go and disappeared. The next terrifying experience was my own. I was probably 11 or 12 when this happened. Now, I gotta set this scenario up so you can kinda understand why it was so scary for me. My bedroom door looks directly down the short hallway between mine and my sister's room. About halfway into the hallway, you have the bathroom that the original owner died in to my left. And just before that is the entrance to the living room directly to my right. You make the right and it's a straight shot across the living room / dining room area, and a left into the kitchen. Our floor is the original hardwood floor from 1947, and we have a crawl space so you can hear and feel almost every footstep and creak. With that scenario set up, here's what happened. It was about midnight or 1 a.m., and for a kid in elementary school, I should have been asleep already. My door was open and I'm looking into the hallway with a little sliver of the living room entrance showing. It's dark, but not completely pitch black, and all of a sudden, I start to feel like someone is walking across the house from the kitchen, across the living room, and towards the hallway. Within those 2 or 3 seconds, my nerves were going. Just before it got into the hallway, it started to sound like someone wearing slippers that was kinda shuffling across the floor like an old person would. The faint shuffling entered the hallway and stopped right at my door frame. It seemed like forever, but a second or two later, the sound went back in the direction it came. I nearly shat myself. Upon messaging the user that posted this video, they gave me a follow-up. Here is their story. I actually just remembered 2 more things that happened. My brother and I shared a room for a very long time, and he said one night he woke up and saw a man with either a plaid shirt or an orange shirt that was ripped up. He said the man had red eyes. It freaked me out. Another few years ago, when a friend came by about 4 or 5 in the morning to take my dad hunting or fishing. When he arrived, he took a short 15-minute nap. When he woke up, he saw an old man standing on the front porch. The man was there for a few seconds and went inside. Not even 5 seconds later, my dad comes out and puts his stuff in the car. His friend asks if he had any company that night before, and my dad said no. He told my dad what he saw. Freaky stuff. Hi, this is my first post here. I have always believed in the paranormal, although sometimes my skeptic side speaks louder. I have witnessed many paranormal activities, all related to my home. Seriously, in every house I ever lived in, there was always some paranormal shit going on there. Like one time, I saw 2 fucking figures of black-eyed boys who seemed to have their legs partially exposed. This happened in a very old house. After moving out of that house, I went to my grandmother's house, which was so old that pieces of the roof sometimes fell off. This was only the top part of the house. The bottom part was renovated. I had a lot of trouble in that house because I slept with my parents upstairs, the most haunted part. There was a tiled corridor with several windows that led to the roofs in the house. However, I was always scared as hell going through this hallway because I always felt and heard footsteps behind me alone. Seriously, I still feel that damn feeling when I visit the house on vacation. Also, one day when I was about 10 years old, I was walking down the hallway and saw the window that looked out onto the second floor of a house. I saw a shadow guy looking at me who quickly disappeared. Sometimes in this house, things would disappear and reappear in unusual places, like a knife in the kitchen disappearing only to reappear days later on the roof. One day I was about to go to sleep at 2 in the morning, or something like that. As I was closing my eyes, I started to hear the sounds of things being thrown in the room across from mine. Due to the fact that my room was very close and had a view of this empty room, it led me to see shadows of objects levitating and flying across the fucking room. It took me a long time to sleep that day. The rest of the events in the next houses decreased in frequency until they became rare, and when they happened, they were bizarre. I already heard my mother calling me, even alone at home. The most bizarre thing is when I heard it in such clarity that it made me doubt whether my mother had really left. What do you guys think about this? These stories may be over, but the things we can't explain, they don't disappear when the video stops. They stay with you, watching, waiting. Maybe you'll feel it tonight when the room is dark and quiet. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. A sound in the distance or a cold breath on the back of your neck. So, before you go, make sure to look around. You never know what might be standing just out of sight. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to Haunted, and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on future videos. Until next time, if you make it that far.